Hey everybody, how's it going? I am your host Adrian, coming to you almost live from lovely Petaluma, California, here in Studio MC2 at Quicksurf Internet Studios. The Geekinator is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Do feel free to head on over to techpodcast.com and check out all the other technology-related shows over there as well. I'd like to encourage everybody to visit us online over at quicksurf.com. Please do subscribe to the show if you have not already done so. You can do that in the show notes for every episode. There's a subscribe heading, and you can subscribe to an Ogg Vorbis feed, an MP3 feed, or a video feed that's compatible with a wide range of consumption devices. If you're not subscribed to the feed that you want, you can go to the website, get the link to subscribe to the feed that you want, and get that going. And please do unsubscribe to the feed that you don't want. You can also find us online over at YouTube, Blip.tv, Dailymotion, Stitcher.com, and TuneIn. I'm always looking for new places to distribute the show. So do feel free to check us out online there as well. Let's go ahead and get into the cool stuff I found for this episode. Kind of a busy week in the maker space. Over at MakeZine, blog.makezine.com, there's a new Arduino Robot available in the Maker Shed at Maker Faire. So Maker Faire has been going on. One of the favorite things of Mark DeVink, the author of this post, is all new product announcements. So Arduino is launching their robotics platform. Pretty awesome. He's got a nice unboxing video you can check out. Pretty neat. Definitely something that I'm going to be looking at potentially getting into because it looks pretty cool. So definitely check that out if you are into Arduino and robotics. From Hackaday, Homebrew GPS gets plus minus 1 meter resolution with a Raspberry Pi. This is awesome. We've been following the work of Andrew Holm and his Homebrew GPS receiver for a while now. A few years ago, he built a 4-channel GPS receiver from scratch, but apparently that wasn't enough. He expanded his build last year to track up to 8 satellites, and this month added a Raspberry Pi for a 12-channel battery-powered Homebrew GPS receiver that has an accuracy of about 3 feet. Pretty amazing. That's awesome. That's really awesome. So anyway, it's the Raspberry Pi is attached to an FPGA board that handles the local oscillator real-time events and tracks the satellites automatically. The Pi handles the difficult but not time-critical math through the SPI interface. Because it's attached to the FPGA through the SPI interface, it can also load up the FPGA with even more custom code, potentially turning this 12-channel receiver into a 16 or 18-channel receiver. So pretty awesome. It's stuff like this that makes, I see stuff like this and go, wow, this could easily be the base. A Raspberry Pi plus this could easily be the base for, an automated drone where you basically give it waypoints and it takes off. It knows where it is. It takes off. It has some situational awareness of where it's supposed to be going. You can give it instructions, load the thing up with the camera or whatever, and say, go to this GPS location and loiter for however long time, maintain this orientation, and take a picture once a minute or something like that. Or even for mapping applications, imagine something like this where you want to get some really high resolution maps of a particular area. Say an urban area, you want to get some really high resolution maps of that. So you get a drone that's got one of these with a nice, high resolution 8 megapixel like DSLR type thing, and the thing flies overhead. And you just basically set up a grid of waypoints once you know how much resolution you can take with your camera. And it literally just goes and, programmatically and sequentially takes really high resolution overhead shots that you can, then turn into an even better map. And it GPS waypoints, the pictures and the whole 9 yards. Can you imagine the possibilities of something this small? With a Raspberry Pi and this, the power that it would need would be, almost nothing compared to, driving, a vehicle around or getting satellite footage or, that sort of thing. Now, obviously, you can't map the whole globe this way, but, in a large metropolitan area, this would be great for once a year you go through. Once you have your initial waypoint map set up, once a year you go through and you just update your photos. Google, you need to be listening. This is awesome. Anyway, it's stuff like this that really gets me going. I mean, just imagine the applications that I just named off a mapping app. There's, hundreds, if not thousands of ways you could use this, in applications that could use something this small that doesn't need a lot of processing power, but still you need an easy way to, get that sort of processing power in a small enough package to do some use. Awesome. Totally awesome. From Make again, Make and Radio Shack are expanding their partnership and product offerings. This is great. I live up in the North Bay area. In terms of electronics shops, there's not a lot here. The one shop is closing down that had like a lot of electronics components. My only other real option for tinkering is Radio Shack. Either that or I have to drive down into the bay, to Fry's Electronics, which by the way is like an hour and a half drive away. So, having a local Radio Shack a couple minutes away that's got stuff from Make in it, huge boon. Is it overpriced? Sure. Do I want to pay that much? Well, considering the alternatives, it's not that overpriced. I could buy all my stuff in bulk and wait for 6 weeks for it to get here and then have a giant collection of stuff and start doing things, but that's not how I work. I'm a little more spontaneous than that, but still pretty neat. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out on this because I go to my local Radio Shack a lot. From Geeky Gadgets, Tesla hints at a new $30,000 EV in the next 3 to 4 years. This is pretty neat. I love the Model S. But the problem with the Model S is it's a little more expensive than I'm willing to pay for a Model S. I'd love to have a similar car, just not as expensive. And it doesn't even have to have like a really long range or be high performance. I just need a way to get around that can seat 5 adults comfortably, that I can plug in when I get home, and it's got enough range I can, my drive to work is a couple of miles. I drive maybe 10 miles a day and, another 50 to 60 miles on the weekends. If I could get something where, once a week, over the weekend, I plug the thing in and it charges up overnight over the weekend. It doesn't have to be a rapid charge. That would be, I think that's a market that a lot of people, if they could get the price down and have that's a market that I think a lot of people would totally go for. Because right now I like the Model S. I'd love to have a Model S, but it's just too expensive. My daily driving, 160-mile range is more than enough. Even on where I drive a lot during a day, it's more than enough to where even if I plugged it in and it charged overnight and I had a full battery every morning, I would be okay with that. I rarely drive, and there's a lot of people that I know that don't really drive that many miles on a daily basis. This would not be a car that I could go on road trips. It would just be get me back and forth to work, weekend running around, that sort of thing. So pretty interesting. I'm curious to see what they come up with. I'd love to see something similar to the Model S, but just less expensive. Doesn't have to be as powerful. It doesn't have to have as long of a range, but it does need to move at least, 4 adults and, be a regular car, basically a daily driver that gets people back and forth to work. And, that's really about it. Weekend running around. From Gizmodo, Google and NASA are building the future of AI with a quantum supercomputer. What? Google and NASA have just announced that they're teaming up to create a laboratory focused on developing the future of artificial intelligence using quantum supercomputers. Okay, one, artificial intelligence is really hard to do. You can display what appears to be a lot of intelligence, and it's really just clever programming or some tactical or contextual awareness. Uh, Quantum supercomputing is awesome. Um, so anyway, the Quantum Artificial Intelligence Lab based at NASA's Ames Research Center in California will be home to a quantum computer from D-Wave Systems. Researchers will work to, in Google's words, study how quantum computing might advance machine learning. So pretty interesting. I'll be looking to see what comes of it. It'll probably be quite some time before we hear any news. From Engadget, Lego Mindstorms EV3 intros 3 new models ready for summer tour. This is pretty awesome. They have a video here. As you all know, I'm a Lego fan. I do a lot of Lego. You can see here in the background. I'm not the only person that does Lego in this house. So I thought this was pretty cool. Definitely check this out, especially if you're into Lego. From Tom's Hardware, I ran across this article. This is a question I've always wondered, and I'm sure other people wonder this too. It's entitled One SSD versus Two in RAID, which is better? Good question. In a few short years, SSDs went from exotic high-end hardware to a staple in most performance-oriented PCs and notebooks. As we already know, that's due to a few things. First, they're tremendously faster than hard drives. Oh yeah. And orders of magnitude more responsive. Second, the price per gigabyte of NAND flash continues dropping thanks to advanced manufacturing and economies of scale. Today, so many 128 gigabyte drives sell for less than $100. Stepping up to 256 gigs often gets you even better pricing on a per gigabyte basis, almost always under $1, and sometimes as low as 60 cents per gig. But now SSDs are kind of at a point where enthusiasts have to make an important decision. Do I buy one large SSD, or do I grab a pair of smaller drives and stripe them in a RAID 0 configuration? This is largely an issue of performance. We know that single drives are hitting the limits of SATA 6 gigabits per second. So are there any of the workloads you're running that are taxing enough to necessitate the throughput, particularly in sequential transfers of two SSDs working cooperatively? Well, that's the goal of this review, is to answer that question by testing the performance of modern SSDs at different capacities. I thought it was an interesting read. Definitely check it out, especially if you're trying to figure out how you're going to do your whole SSD mix. Definitely shed quite a bit of light on the matter. From Engadget, Tim Cook says a US-made Mac will be a new model in an existing family. They've been saying this for a while. He previously said that summer of 2013, Apple have something that a lot of Mac Pro type users will really like. This is obviously a new Mac a new model in an existing family. It's going to be built entirely here in the U.S., built and assembled, the whole 9 yards. So pretty interesting. This is the first time they've really said a whole lot about it, so I'm curious to see what it is. I think it'll be a really high-end performance type computer. I don't see them making, laptops here or anything of that nature. I think it'll be probably a replacement for the Mac Pro. One thing that I've always wished Apple would do is, build a Mac Pro, kind of have a product, because right now you have your iMac and it's essentially a lot like a laptop, even though it uses a lot of desktop components. It's not that upgradable. And then they have the Mac Pro. The iMac is relatively inexpensive. The Mac Pro, so they've got, kind of, okay, it's a fast computer, but not necessarily something that I want to have because I can't upgrade it and I can't afford the Mac Pro. Even though I can upgrade it, it's really super high end. So I really wish they would come up or release something. And I've said this before. I really wish they would release something that's kind of right there in the middle between an iMac and a Mac Pro that has kind of the same form factor and upgradability of the Mac Pro, but not quite so high end. I mean, the cheapest Mac Pro is several orders of magnitude more than what your average user is going to need. Even average performance user is going to need. So we'll see. From the New York Times, in their personal tech section, state of the art, Google's aggregator gives way to an Heir. This is a posting by David Pogue. I always like reading everything that he posts. We've all heard Google Reader is going away on July 1st. Well, Google Reader is being replaced by Feedly. And, this is really all about that. And I'm a Feedly user. There's a lot to like about it. There's also, I wish they would, make it a little faster. Anyway, definitely, it was an interesting read. Definitely check it out. From Mashable, how Iron Man compares to Batman. I just had to include this. Huge Iron Man fan. I went and saw Iron Man 3 a week or so ago when it first came out. They have a nice little infographic. It's from Extra Life over at myextralife.com. I'm not going to give it away. Definitely go check it out. It is awesome. Yahoo. That's all I have to say. And Batman in the DC universe is a lot like, Bruce Wayne in the DC universe is a lot like Tony Stark is in the Marvel universe. There's a lot of parallels there. They're both super rich. They both have no superpowers. They both have all kinds of cool, geeky gadgets. Batman is, a little more exposed. Iron Man is, a little more techie, but, there's still a lot of parallels there. So pretty cool. That'll do it for this edition of the Geekinator. As always, everything we've talked about is linked up in the show notes. You can find those online over at quicksurf.com. You can shoot me an email, geekinator@quicksurf.com, and subscribe if you have not already done so. And with that, I will see all of you on the next episode. See you then. Bye.